The crystal chandelier shook above the grand ballroom. Every noble in England was here tonight. The King's birthday ball was the biggest event of the year, but General Marcus Blackwood did not want to be here. He stood near the wall. His left hand gripped his walking stick. His right hand hung at his side. It did not work anymore. The battle scars on his face made ladies look away. 3 years ago, he was the hero of Waterloo. Every woman wanted to dance with him. Every man wanted to be his friend. Now they whispered behind his back. "Look at the broken general," Lady Pemberton said to her friend. "So sad what happened to him. His face is quite frightening now," the other lady replied. "And his arm, completely useless." Marcus heard every word. He was used to it now. The stares, the whispers, the pity. He should not have come tonight, but the king commanded it. So here he was. The music played. Couples danced. Marcus watched from the shadows. Then he saw her. She was not dressed like the other ladies. Her dress was plain grey. Her hair was pulled back simply. She carried a tray of glasses. A servant, but there was something about her face. Her eyes were kind. When she looked at the nobles, she did not judge them. When she looked at him, she did not turn away. Their eyes met across the room. Marcus felt his heart skip a beat. Isabella Rose had worked in the palace for 2 years. She served at every grand event. She knew how to be invisible. Tonight was different. The moment she saw General Blackwood, her breath caught. Not because of his scars, not because of his damaged arm, because she recognized the pain in his eyes. She knew that look. She had seen it in the mirror every day for 5 years. Isabella had her own secrets, her own scars. They were just hidden better than his. "Isabella," Mrs. Crawford, the head servant, snapped at her. "Stop staring and serve the wine." "Yes, ma'am," Isabella said quickly. She moved through the crowd. She offered wine to the lords and ladies. They did not look at her. To them, she was invisible. But the general's eyes followed her. She could feel him watching. It made her nervous and excited at the same time. "More wine here, girl," Lord Ashford demanded. Isabella hurried over. As she poured, Lord Ashford grabbed her wrist. "Pretty little thing," he said with a nasty smile. "Perhaps you'd like to earn some extra coin tonight." Isabella tried to pull away. His grip was too strong. "Please, my lord," she whispered, "let me go." "I don't think so," he laughed. Suddenly, a walking stick slammed down on the table. "Release her." Lord Ashford looked up. General Blackwood stood there. His scarred face was dark with anger. "This is none of your business, Blackwood," Ashford snarled. "Release her now," Marcus repeated. His voice was deadly quiet. Even with one good arm, the general was still dangerous. Ashford knew it. Everyone knew it. Ashford let go of Isabella's wrist. "Thank you, my lord," Isabella whispered to Marcus. He nodded. "Are you hurt?" "No, sir. I'm fine." Their eyes met again. This time, Marcus saw something that shocked him. No pity, no disgust, just genuine gratitude. When was the last time someone looked at him like that? The ball continued. Isabella went back to her duties, but she kept thinking about the general. He had protected her. No one ever protected her before. She watched him from across the room. He stood alone. The other nobles avoided him. It made her heart ache. Around midnight, something terrible happened. General Blackwood was walking toward the refreshment table. His face was pale, sweat beaded on his forehead. Isabella saw it first. He was in pain, real pain. The general took another step, then another. Then his legs gave out. He collapsed on the marble floor. The entire ballroom gasped. Ladies screamed. gentlemen shouted, but no one moved to help him. They all just stared. Isabella dropped her tray, glasses shattered on the floor. She ran toward the fallen general. "Don't touch him," someone yelled. "He might be contagious. Call a doctor." Another voice shouted. "Give him space." A third person demanded. But Isabella ignored them all. She knelt beside Marcus on the cold marble floor. His eyes were closed. His breathing was shallow. "Sir," she said softly. "Can you hear me?" His eyes opened. They were filled with pain and shame. "Don't look at me," he whispered. "I'm going to help you," Isabella said firmly. "No, leave me. I'm broken." Isabella's heart broke at his words. "You're not broken," she said. "You're hurt. There's a difference." She looked at his face. The scars were deep. But she was not afraid. "Let me help you," she whispered. Isabella reached out. Her fingers touched the general's scarred cheek. The entire ballroom went silent. No one had touched Marcus Blackwood's scars since the army doctors, not even his own family. But this servant girl did not hesitate. Her touch was gentle, caring, not disgusted at all. "You're burning with fever," she said quietly. Marcus stared at her in shock. She was not afraid of him. She was not repulsed. "I can help you," Isabella said, "but we need to get you somewhere private." "The servants' quarters," Marcus whispered. "No one will look there." Isabella nodded. She helped him sit up. "I can walk," he said. "Lean on me," she replied. Together they stood. The general was much taller than Isabella, much heavier, but she was stronger than she looked. They walked slowly through the crowd. The nobles stepped back. They whispered and stared. "Scandalous," Lady Pemberton hissed. "A servant touching a general," Lord Winchester said with disgust. "She's probably after his money," another lady added. Isabella heard every cruel word, but she did not care. The general needed help. That was all that mattered. They made it to the servants' stairs. It was quiet here, dark. "Why are you helping me?" Marcus asked as they climbed. Isabella looked at him. In the dim light, his scars seemed softer. "Because everyone deserves kindness," she said simply. Marcus felt tears in his eyes. When was the last time someone showed him kindness? Isabella's room was small and simple. Just a bed, a chair, and a wash basin. She helped Marcus sit on the chair. Then she lit a candle. "Your wounds," she said, looking at his face. "They're infected." Marcus touched his scars. "The doctors said they healed wrong. They need proper care," Isabella said. "May I?" Marcus nodded. Isabella went to her small trunk. She pulled out cloths and herbs. "I know something about healing," she explained. "My mother was a healer before she died." She poured water into the basin, added herbs. The smell was clean and fresh. "This might hurt," she warned. "I'm used to pain," Marcus replied. Isabella dipped a cloth in the herbal water. Gently, she began cleaning his scars. Marcus closed his eyes. Her touch was so gentle, so caring. No one had touched him like this in years. "Better?" she asked softly. Marcus opened his eyes. Isabella was very close. Her face was kind, beautiful in a simple way. "Much better," he whispered. She smiled. It was the first real smile he had seen in months. "You have a beautiful smile," Marcus said without thinking. Isabella blushed. "Thank you, sir." "Call me Marcus," he said. "Please." "I shouldn't. It's not proper." "Nothing about tonight is proper," Marcus replied. "But I don't care." Isabella looked into his eyes. She saw pain there, but also something else. Hope. "Marcus," she said quietly. He smiled. It was the first time he had smiled in 3 years. Isabella worked on Marcus's wounds for an hour. She was gentle but thorough. "Where did you learn to heal like this?" Marcus asked. "My mother taught me before she died," Isabella said. "We lived in a small village. She helped everyone who was sick or hurt." "What happened to her?" Isabella's hands stopped moving. "Fever took her when I was 15. I'm sorry. After she died, I had nothing. No family, no money. I came to London to find work." Marcus watched her face. He saw old pain there, just like his own. "The palace hired you?" he asked. "Mrs. Crawford took pity on me," Isabella said. "I've been here 2 years now. Do you like it here?" Isabella was quiet for a moment. "It's better than starving on the streets." Marcus felt anger rise in his chest. This beautiful, kind woman should not have to live like this. "You deserve better," he said. Isabella looked at him in surprise. "I'm just a servant, sir." "Marcus, you're more than that," Marcus said firmly. "Much more." Their eyes met again. Something electric passed between them. Isabella felt her heart racing. This was dangerous. She was falling for a man she could never have. Marcus felt the same thing. He wanted to touch her face, kiss her lips, but he stopped himself. A general and a servant. It was impossible, wasn't it? Isabella woke early the next morning. For a moment, she wondered if last night was a dream. Then she saw the bloody cloths in her wash basin. It was real. She had helped General Blackwood. She had touched his scars. She had felt something she never felt before. Love. Isabella shook her head. She could not think like that. It was foolish. She got dressed and went to work. The palace was buzzing with gossip about last night. "Did you see what happened with the general?" one maid whispered. "That servant girl touching him like that," another replied. "Shameful." "I heard they disappeared together," the first maid added. Isabella kept her head down. She did not want to hear more, but the gossip followed her everywhere. Isabella rose. Mrs. Crawford called her into the office. Isabella's stomach dropped. She was in trouble. "Sit down," Mrs. Crawford said sternly. Isabella sat. Her hands shook in her lap. "Last night was quite a spectacle," Mrs. Crawford began. "You left your post. You dropped a tray of glasses. You made a scene in front of the entire court." "I was helping someone who needed help," Isabella said quietly. "You overstepped your place," Mrs. Crawford snapped. "Servants do not touch their betters, especially not in public." Isabella looked down. "I'm sorry, ma'am." "However," Mrs. Crawford continued, "General Blackwood sent a message this morning." Isabella's head snapped up. "He did?" Mrs. Crawford held up a letter. "He thanked the palace for your assistance. He also included a generous donation." Isabella's heart pounded. Marcus had thought of her. "This saves your position," Mrs. Crawford said. "But barely. Do not make such a spectacle again." "Yes, ma'am," Isabella whispered. She left the office with her head spinning. Marcus had protected her again. Why did he care about a simple servant? 3 days passed. Isabella tried to forget about that night, but she could not. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Marcus's face, felt his skin under her fingers. She was going crazy. On the 4th day, she received a note. "Meet me in the rose garden at midnight." Isabella's heart raced. She should not go. It was dangerous, but she could not stay away. At midnight, she slipped out of the servants' quarters. The rose garden was dark and quiet. Marcus was waiting by the fountain. He looked better. His scars were healing properly now. His color was good. "You came," he said softly. "I almost didn't," Isabella replied. "I'm glad you did." They stood there in the moonlight, both unsure what to say. "How are your wounds?" Isabella asked finally. Much better. Thanks to you. I'm glad. Marcus stepped closer. Isabella, I can't stop thinking about you. Isabella's breath caught. Sir, we shouldn't. I know, Marcus said, but I can't help it. You saved me. Not just my body, my soul. Isabella felt tears in her eyes. This is impossible. You know that. I don't care about impossible, Marcus said fiercely. I care about you. He reached out and touched her face, just like she had touched his. You're beautiful, he whispered. I'm nobody, Isabella replied. You're everything to me. Before she could protest, Marcus kissed her. Isabella melted into his arms. She had never been kissed before. It was perfect. It was also forbidden. For 2 weeks, Marcus and Isabella met in secret. Every night at midnight, they found each other in the rose garden. They talked for hours about their pasts, their dreams, their fears. Marcus told her about the war, the friends he lost, the guilt he carried. Isabella told him about her childhood, her mother's death, her loneliness. They understood each other in a way no one else could. Both had been broken. Both had survived. Together, they began to heal. But they were not careful enough. Someone was watching. Lord Ashford had not forgotten his humiliation at the ball. He wanted revenge. And he found it. One night, he followed Isabella to the garden. He hid behind the roses and watched. He saw everything. The kisses, the tender words, the love. The next morning, he went straight to the king. Your Majesty, Lord Ashford said with false concern, I have disturbing news about General Blackwood. What news? The king asked. He is having an affair with a servant girl. I saw them myself, meeting in secret. The king's face darkened. Are you certain? Absolutely, Your Majesty. It's quite scandalous. The king was furious. Marcus Blackwood was one of his top generals. This kind of scandal could ruin the army's reputation. Bring me the general, the king commanded. Immediately, Marcus was summoned to the throne room. He had no idea what was coming. The king sat on his golden throne. His face was cold with anger. General Blackwood, the king said formally. Your Majesty, Marcus bowed. I have received disturbing reports about your conduct. Marcus felt his stomach drop. Your Majesty, you are accused of carrying on with a palace servant. Is this true? Marcus's mind raced. If he denied it, Isabella would be safe, but it would be a lie. If he admitted it, they were both doomed. Your Majesty, Marcus began carefully. Answer the question, the king shouted. Are you involved with a servant girl named Isabella Rose? Marcus looked at the king, at the court nobles watching, at Lord Ashford, smirking in the corner. He made his choice. Yes, Marcus said clearly. I am. Gasps echoed through the throne room. She is the finest woman I have ever known, Marcus continued, and I love her. More gasps. Lord Ashford's smirk grew wider. The king's face turned red with rage. You dare bring shame to your uniform, to this court? The king roared. I bring no shame, Your Majesty, only truth. The truth is you have forgotten your place. The king snapped. A general does not consort with servants. A man loves who he loves, Marcus replied bravely. Not in my court. The king stood up. General Blackwood, you are stripped of your rank and title. You are banished from court. Forever. Marcus felt the words hit him like a physical blow. And the girl, the king continued, will be dismissed immediately, without references. No. Marcus stepped forward. Punish me, not her. Guards, the king called. Remove this man from my sight. 2 guards grabbed Marcus by the arms. Isabella did nothing wrong. Marcus shouted as they dragged him away. But the king had made his decision. Both Marcus and Isabella were ruined. Isabella was cleaning the silver when Mrs. Crawford found her. "Pack your things," Mrs. Crawford said coldly. "You're dismissed." Isabella's heart stopped. "What? Why?" "Your shameful conduct with General Blackwood has been discovered." Isabella went white. They knew. Somehow they knew. "Where is he?" Isabella asked frantically. "Gone. Banished. Just like you will be in 1 hour." Isabella felt the world spinning around her. "Mrs. Crawford, please," she begged. "I have nowhere to go." "You should have thought of that before you forgot your place," Mrs. Crawford replied heartlessly. Isabella ran to her room. She threw her few belongings into a bag. Her hands shook as she packed. What would she do? Where would she go? She had no money, no family, no references for future work. She was ruined, just like Marcus said he was. But at least they had each other, didn't they? Isabella rushed to the throne room. It was empty. She found a guard. "Where is General Blackwood?" she asked desperately. "Gone," the guard replied. "Banished an hour ago." "Where did he go?" The guard shrugged. "Who knows, and who cares?" Isabella felt tears streaming down her face. Marcus was gone. She was alone. Their love had destroyed everything. Isabella left the palace with nothing but the clothes on her back. London was cold and cruel to a woman alone. She had no money for lodging, no food, but she did not give up. She searched everywhere for Marcus. She asked at every inn, every stable, every boarding house. No one had seen him. After 3 days, Isabella was exhausted and starving. She collapsed in an alley behind a bakery. "Here now," a kind voice said. "You can't sleep here." Isabella looked up. An older woman with grey hair and kind eyes stood over her. "I'm sorry," Isabella whispered. "I'll move on." "Nonsense," the woman said. "You look half dead. Come inside." The woman helped Isabella to her feet. She led her into the bakery. "I'm Mrs. Potter," the woman said. "I own this place." Isabella rose. Isabella replied weakly. Mrs. Potter fed her bread and soup, gave her a place by the fire to warm up. "What's your story, dear?" Mrs. Potter asked gently. Isabella told her everything. The ball, the general, their love, their ruin. Mrs. Potter listened without judgment. "Love makes fools of us all," Mrs. Potter said finally, "but it also makes us brave." "I've lost him," Isabella said sadly. "I don't even know if he's alive." "Then you must find him," Mrs. Potter replied firmly. "How?" "I have nothing, no money, no help." Mrs. Potter smiled. "You have something more valuable than money, dear." "What?" "A heart that won't give up." Mrs. Potter offered Isabella a job in the bakery. It was not much, but it was hope. Isabella accepted gratefully. She would work, save money, and never stop looking for Marcus. Their love was worth fighting for. Marcus rode north from London. He had no destination, no plan. He was nothing now. No rank, no title, no purpose. But worst of all, he had lost Isabella. He found a small inn in a village called Millbrook. The innkeeper, Mr. Davies, was a former soldier himself. "You look like a man with troubles," Mr. Davies said. "More than you know," Marcus replied sadly. Mr. Davies gave him a room and a job helping in the stables. It was humble work for a former general, but Marcus was grateful for it. The physical work helped numb his pain. During the day, he could almost forget, but at night he dreamed of Isabella. Her gentle touch, her beautiful smile, her brave heart. He wondered if she was safe, if she was eating enough, if she thought of him. The not knowing was torture. "You're wasting away," Mr. Davies told him one evening. "Whatever happened, it's eating you alive." Marcus looked at his reflection in the mirror. Mr. Davies was right. He was thinner, paler. The light had gone out of his eyes. "I lost the woman I love," Marcus said quietly. "Then go find her," Mr. Davies replied simply. "It's not that easy." "Love never is," Mr. Davies said. "But it's always worth fighting for." Marcus thought about those words all night. Maybe Mr. Davies was right. Maybe it was time to fight. Isabella had been working at the bakery for 2 months. She had saved every penny. Every day she asked travellers about a scarred man with a lame arm. Most had seen nothing. But one day a merchant had news. I saw such a man," the merchant said, "working at Davies Inn in Millbrook, about 2 days' ride north." Isabella's heart leaped. Could it be Marcus? She counted her savings. Just enough for the journey. "Mrs. Potter," Isabella said that night, "I think I found him." Mrs. Potter smiled. "Then you must go to him, dear. What if it's not him? What if I'm wrong?" "Then you'll keep looking," Mrs. Potter replied. Love doesn't give up. The next morning, Isabella set out for Millbrook. She travelled on foot, sleeping under the stars. Her body ached, but her heart soared with hope. After 2 days, she reached the village. Davies' Inn sat at the centre of town. Isabella approached nervously. Through the window, she saw him. Marcus. He was thinner than before. Sadder, but it was definitely him. Isabella's legs went weak with relief. She pushed open the inn door. Marcus looked up from wiping tables. Their eyes met across the room. For a moment, neither moved. Neither breathed. Then Marcus dropped the cloth and ran to her. "Isabella," he whispered, crushing her in his arms. "I found you," she sobbed against his chest. "I thought I'd lost you forever." They held each other as if they would never let go. Because this time, they wouldn't. "How did you find me?" Marcus asked when they finally separated. "I never stopped looking," Isabella replied. Marcus touched her face gently. She was thinner too. Her clothes were worn. "You've suffered because of me," he said sadly. "We suffered because we loved." Isabella corrected. "That's not the same thing." Mr. Davies approached them with a smile. "This must be the lady you've been pining for," he said kindly. Isabella rose. Marcus said proudly, "The woman I love." "Well then," Mr. Davies said, "I suppose we should talk about a wedding." Marcus and Isabella stared at him in shock. "We can't marry," Isabella said. "He's a lord. I'm a servant." "Not anymore," Mr. Davies chuckled. "He's a stable hand. You're a baker's assistant. Perfect match, I'd say." Marcus looked at Isabella with wonder. "He's right. We're both starting over." "But society," Isabella began. "Society can go to hell," Marcus said firmly. "I want you, Isabella. Not a title, not wealth, just you." Isabella felt tears of joy in her eyes. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." Marcus dropped to one knee right there in the inn. "Isabella rose," he said loudly. "Will you marry me?" The entire inn went quiet. Everyone stared. Isabella looked down at this brave, scarred, wonderful man. "Yes," she said clearly. "Yes, I will." The inn erupted in cheers and applause. Mr. Davies wiped tears from his eyes. "Well then," he said, "looks like we're having a wedding." Marcus and Isabella were married 1 week later in the village church. Mrs. Potter came from London for the ceremony. Mr. Davies walked Isabella down the aisle. It was a simple wedding. No nobles, no fancy dresses, no crystal chandeliers. But it was perfect. Isabella wore a dress Mrs. Potter made for her, white with blue ribbons. Marcus wore his best shirt and jacket. His scars caught the sunlight streaming through the church windows. He had never looked more handsome to Isabella. When the priest asked for their vows, Marcus spoke from his heart. "Isabella, you saved my life that night at the ball. But more than that, you saved my soul. You saw past my scars to the man I could still be. I promise to love you, protect you, and cherish you for all my days." Isabella's voice shook with emotion as she replied, "Marcus, you showed me that love is worth any risk, that kindness matters more than status, that two broken people can heal each other. I promise to stand by your side through whatever comes, forever." They exchanged simple gold bands. When the priest pronounced them husband and wife, Marcus kissed Isabella with all the passion he had been holding back. The small congregation cheered. After the ceremony, the entire village celebrated with dancing and feasting. Marcus and Isabella danced together as the sun set. "Any regrets?" Marcus asked softly. Isabella looked around at their new friends, their simple but honest life ahead. "None," she said firmly. "This is better than any palace. Even without servants and titles." Isabella smiled. "Especially without servants and titles." They danced until the stars came out. Later, in their small room above the inn, Isabella traced Marcus's scars with her fingers. "I love these," she whispered. "Why?" Marcus asked, puzzled. "Because they're part of your story, and your story led you to me." Marcus held her close. They had lost everything society valued: rank, wealth, status. But they had gained something infinitely more precious: true love. A year later, Isabella gave birth to their first child, a daughter with her mother's dark eyes and her father's strong jaw. They named her Hope. Marcus worked hard at the inn. Isabella helped Mrs. Davies with cooking. They were not rich, but they were happy. Sometimes travellers brought news from London. The king had died. New nobles rose and fell. Marcus and Isabella listened politely. But that world seemed like a dream now. This was their reality, their family, their love. On quiet evenings, they would sit by their fire. Isabella would sew while Marcus whittled toys for Hope. "Do you ever wonder what would have happened?" Isabella asked one night. "If we had been from the same class." Marcus considered this. "We probably never would have met." "True. And if we had, it would have been boring," Marcus added with a grin. Isabella laughed. "Boring? No drama, no risk, no grand gesture of love." "You think risk makes love stronger?" "I know it does," Marcus said seriously. "Easy love is forgotten. Hard-won love lasts forever." Isabella set down her sewing and moved to sit on his lap. "Then ours will last forever," she said softly. "Forever and a day," Marcus agreed. He kissed her forehead, her cheeks, her lips. Outside, snow began to fall. Inside, their fire crackled warmly. Hope slept peacefully in her cradle. Marcus and Isabella held each other close. They had found their happily ever after. Not in a palace or a castle, but in each other's arms, where it had always been waiting. The end. An original narrated audio story by Veiled Royalty. The auction block stood like a monument to desperation in the centre of Brighton's debtors' market. Lady Rosalind Ashworth gripped her thin shawl tighter as rain began to fall on the cobblestones around her feet. At 19, she had never imagined she would stand here, not the daughter of Earl Ashworth, not a lady who had once danced in royal ballrooms. But her father's gambling debts had destroyed everything. The creditors wanted their money, and she was the only thing left to sell. "Lot 17, the auctioneer called out in a voice that echoed off the surrounding buildings. Lady Rosalind Ashworth, educated, well-bred, speaks 3 languages, perfect for service in a noble household. The word service made her stomach turn. Everyone knew what it really meant when a lady was sold at the debtor's market. She would become property. A servant, or worse. The crowd pressed closer. Rough men with calculating eyes examined her like livestock. Her heart pounded so hard she thought it might burst from her chest. This couldn't be happening. This couldn't be real. Bidding starts at £50, the auctioneer announced. A gruff voice called out, 50. Then another, 75. Rosalind closed her eyes and tried to disappear inside herself. She thought of better times, of the day 5 years ago when she had met Prince Adrian at the royal ball. How handsome he had looked in his military uniform, how he had asked her to dance, how he had whispered that she was the most beautiful woman in all of England, and how she had rejected his proposal of marriage. She had been 15 then, naive, believing that love should be a fairy tale, not a political arrangement. Her father had been furious when she refused the prince, but she had been stubborn. She wanted to marry for love, not duty. Now, standing on this auction block, she realized how foolish she had been. If she had married Prince Adrian, she would be a princess now, safe, protected. Instead, she was about to be sold like a piece of furniture. £100, someone shouted from the back of the crowd. Rosalind opened her eyes. The bidding was getting higher. That meant whoever bought her had specific plans. Her hands began to shake. 150. 200. The voices were getting more aggressive. Men were pushing closer to get a better look at her. The auctioneer was smiling. This was turning into the kind of bidding war that made him rich. Then a new voice cut through the noise, deep, commanding, unmistakable. £5,000. The entire crowd went silent. £5,000 was more money than most of these men would see in their entire lives. It was an insane amount to pay for anyone, even a lady. Rosalind searched the crowd desperately, trying to see who had made such an enormous bid. But the speaker remained hidden somewhere in the back, concealed by the press of bodies. £5,000, the auctioneer repeated, his voice shaking with excitement. Going once, going twice. No one else bid. How could they? £5,000 was impossible to match. Sold, the auctioneer declared. To the gentleman in the back. Rosalind felt her knees weaken. Someone had just bought her for an amount that defied belief. What did they want with her that was worth such a fortune? Two well-dressed servants pushed through the crowd toward the auction block. They were clearly from a wealthy household. Their clothes were expensive, their bearing respectful but professional. "My lady," one of them said quietly, offering her a dark cloak. "Please come with us." She had no choice. She was no longer her own person. She belonged to whoever had paid £5,000 for her. The servants guided her through the crowd to a magnificent black carriage that waited at the edge of the market. The carriage bore no family crest, no identifying marks. Her mysterious buyer wanted to remain anonymous. As they helped her into the plush interior, Rosalind's mind raced. Who had this kind of money? A duke? A marquess? Some wealthy merchant who had made his fortune in trade. The carriage began to move, carrying her away from the only life she had ever known. Through the small window she watched Brighton's familiar streets disappear behind her. She was entering a new world now, a world where she was no longer Lady Rosalind Ashworth, but simply property. The journey took hours, long enough for the sun to set and stars to appear in the darkening sky. The servants sat across from her in respectful silence, offering her food and water, but no conversation. They had been trained not to reveal anything about their master. Finally, the carriage began to slow. Through the window, Rosalind could see the outline of an enormous estate. Even in the darkness, she could tell it was grander than any private home she had ever seen. Towers and spires reached toward the sky. Hundreds of windows glowed with warm light. This wasn't just wealth. This was power. The carriage stopped in front of a massive entrance, flanked by marble columns. Footmen rushed forward to open the door and help her down. She had never seen so many servants in one place. Dozens of them lined the steps, all dressed in identical livery. "This way, my lady," said a distinguished older woman who appeared to be the head housekeeper. "His lordship is waiting for you in the library." His lordship. So her buyer was at least a lord, possibly higher. But why had he paid such an enormous sum for her? And why the secrecy? They led her through corridors that seemed to stretch forever. The walls were covered with priceless paintings and tapestries. Crystal chandeliers cast dancing shadows on marble floors. This place was like a palace. Actually, Rosalind realized with growing alarm, it was a palace. She recognized the architecture now, the distinctive style of the royal family's private residences. But that was impossible. Why would she be brought to a royal palace? They stopped in front of massive oak doors carved with the royal coat of arms. Rosalind's heart began to pound again. This couldn't be happening. This had to be some mistake. The doors opened to reveal a magnificent library. Floor-to-ceiling shelves held thousands of leather-bound books. A fire crackled in an enormous fireplace, and standing with his back to her, gazing into the flames, was a tall figure in dark clothing. "Leave us," he said quietly. The servants immediately withdrew, closing the doors behind them. Rosalind was alone with her mysterious buyer. Slowly the figure turned around. Prince Adrian. Now King Adrian. Rosalind's legs nearly gave out beneath her. Of all the people in England who might have bought her, it was the man she had rejected 5 years ago. The man who was now the most powerful person in the kingdom. "Hello, Rosalind," he said softly. He looked older than she remembered. More serious. The boyish charm she recalled from their dance had been replaced by the weight of responsibility. He wore no crown, no royal regalia, just simple dark clothes that somehow made him seem more intimidating than any throne room display. "Your Majesty," she whispered, sinking into a deep curtsy. Her voice was barely audible. "Please sit," he said, gesturing to a chair near the fireplace. "We have much to discuss." She remained standing, too frightened to move. "I don't understand. Why did I buy you?" he finished for her. A slight smile touched his lips, but it wasn't cruel. "I should think that would be obvious." "Nothing about this is obvious," she managed to say. He moved closer, and she could see that the years had changed him more than she had first realized. There were lines around his eyes that hadn't been there before, a hardness to his jaw that spoke of difficult decisions and heavy burdens. "5 years ago," he said, "you told me that you could never marry a man you didn't love. Do you remember?" How could she forget? It had been the most difficult conversation of her young life. "Yes, you said that royal marriages were business arrangements, that princes didn't marry for love, only for political advantage." She nodded, unable to speak. "You were right, of course. I have since married twice. Both times for political reasons. Both wives died in childbirth, along with the heirs they carried." Rosalind felt a shock of sympathy. She had heard rumors of the king's tragedies, but to hear him speak of them so matter-of-factly was heartbreaking. "I am now 34 years old," he continued. "I have no heir. Parliament is pressuring me to marry again, to produce the next generation of the royal line." "I'm sorry for your losses," she said quietly. "Are you?" he asked, studying her face. "Or are you simply saying what you think I want to hear?" The question caught her off guard. I am truly sorry. No one should have to endure such pain. Something in his expression softened. Thank you, but that is not why you are here. Then why? He was silent for a long moment, staring into the fire. When he spoke again, his voice was so quiet she had to strain to hear him. Because I have never forgotten you. The words hit her like a physical blow. She sank into the chair he had offered earlier, her legs no longer able to support her. In 5 years, he continued, through 2 marriages, 2 wars, countless political crises, and personal tragedies, I have never stopped thinking about the girl who danced with me one evening and then had the courage to tell a prince that she deserved better than a loveless marriage. Rosalind stared at him in shock. You've thought about me? Every day. He turned to face her fully. Do you know what it is like to rule a kingdom, Rosalind? To make decisions that affect millions of lives, to carry the weight of a crown that you never asked for? She shook her head. It is the loneliest existence imaginable. I am surrounded by people every moment of every day, yet I am completely alone. Everyone who speaks to me wants something. Power, money, position. No one sees me as simply a man. Except, she whispered, beginning to understand. Except you. He moved to sit in the chair across from her. One 15-year-old girl who looked at a prince and saw someone who wasn't good enough for her. That's not what I meant, she protested. Isn't it? You told me that you wanted to marry for love, that you believed you deserved a husband who would cherish you, not use you for political gain. His eyes met hers. You were the first person who ever suggested that I might not be the most desirable man in England simply because I wore a crown. Rosalind felt tears beginning to gather in her eyes. I was young, foolish. I didn't understand. You understood perfectly, and you were brave enough to act on that understanding. He leaned forward slightly. Do you know how many people have the courage to refuse a royal command? How many young women would have turned down the chance to become a princess? It was stupid, she said. If I had married you, my family would never have fallen into debt. My father would never have gambled away our fortune. I would never have ended up on that auction block. No, he agreed. You would have ended up in a royal palace, married to a man who saw you as a political necessity, just as my first 2 wives were. The truth of that statement settled over her like a weight. She had seen royal marriages before. Beautiful women who smiled in public and looked desperately unhappy in private. But that's not why I bought you, Adrian continued. Then why? She asked again. He stood up and walked to the window that looked out over the palace gardens. The moonlight illuminated his profile, and Rosalind was struck again by how much more serious he had become. Because I am going to ask you the same question I asked 5 years ago. Her heart stopped beating. What? I am going to ask you to marry me, Rosalind. But this time, I am going to tell you the truth. She couldn't breathe. The truth. He turned back to her, and she saw something in his eyes that she had never expected to see in a king's face. Vulnerability. The truth is that I have been in love with you since the moment we danced together. The truth is that when you rejected my proposal, it broke my heart more completely than I thought possible. The truth is that I married 2 other women hoping to forget you, and it was the cruelest thing I have ever done to them, because they deserved husbands who could love them wholly. Rosalind felt the world spinning around her. This couldn't be real. Kings didn't fall in love with minor nobles and carry that love for 5 years. Kings didn't buy women from debtors' auctions out of romantic devotion. The truth, Adrian continued, moving closer to her, is that when I heard about your father's debts and learned that you were going to be sold, I knew I couldn't let some stranger buy you. I couldn't bear the thought of you belonging to anyone else. So you bought me yourself, she whispered. I bought you, he agreed, And now I am going to give you the same choice I gave you 5 years ago, with one crucial difference. What difference? He knelt down beside her chair, taking her hands in his. The gesture was so unexpected, so humble, that she gasped. 5 years ago I asked you to marry a prince for political reasons. Today I am asking you to marry a man because he loves you more than his own life. Tears were flowing freely down her cheeks now. Adrian, I know this is overwhelming. I know you must be frightened and confused. You have every right to be. His grip on her hands tightened. But I need you to know that if you say yes, it will not be like my other marriages. You will not be a political pawn or a royal broodmare. You will be my queen, because you are the woman I choose to love. And if I say no, she managed to ask, then I will give you a house anywhere in England you wish to live, a comfortable income for the rest of your life, your freedom, and I will never bother you again. She stared at him in amazement. You would do that? I would do that. Even though you paid £5,000 for me? A ghost of a smile touched his lips. Rosalind, I would pay £5 million just to know that you were safe and happy. The money means nothing to me. Your well-being means everything. She looked down at their joined hands. His was stronger than she remembered, marked with small scars that spoke of years spent training with swords and handling horses. These were the hands of a man who had worked and fought and suffered. I don't understand, she said softly. How could you love me all this time? You barely knew me. I knew enough, he replied. I knew that you were kind to servants when you thought no one was watching. I knew that you spoke 3 languages because you genuinely loved learning, not because you wanted to impress people. I knew that you argued with your father about the treatment of tenants on your family estate because you believed the poor deserved better. Rosalind looked up at him in surprise. How could you know all of that? Because I made it my business to know. After you refused me, I had my agents find out everything they could about you. Not to harm you, but because I needed to understand who you really were. You spied on me? I fell in love with you, he corrected gently. There is a difference. She pulled her hands free and stood up, needing space to think. This was too much, too overwhelming. 5 years ago she had been a girl with romantic dreams of fairy tale love. Now she was a woman who had experienced real hardship and loss. She understood the world differently now. Adrian, she said, using his name without his title for the first time. I need you to understand something. What? I'm not the same person I was 5 years ago. That girl who rejected you was naive and sheltered. She had never known real fear or desperation. She had never stood on an auction block and wondered if she would be sold to a man who would abuse her. He nodded. I know. Do you? Because the woman I am now understands something that girl never did. I understand that love is not just about romantic feelings. It's about trust. It's about partnership. It's about finding someone who will stand beside you when the world tries to tear you down. Yes, he said quietly. 5 years ago I believed that arranged marriages were cold and heartless. But watching my parents' marriage, which was supposedly based on love, I learned that emotions alone are not enough. My father claimed to love my mother, but he still gambled away everything they had. He still put his desires above his family's well-being. Adrian was listening intently, not interrupting. If I marry you, Rosalind continued, it won't be the romantic fairy tale I dreamed about as a girl. It will be a partnership between 2 people who have both learned hard lessons about life. Would that be enough for you? He asked. She looked at him carefully. Really looked at him. The boy she remembered had been charming and confident. This man was something different. He was marked by responsibility and loss, but also by a quiet strength that the younger prince had not possessed. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Anything. When you married your other wives, did you try to love them?" Pain flickered across his features. "I did. They were good women who deserved better husbands than I could be." "Because you were thinking of me?" "Because I was thinking of you," he admitted. "And if I marry you now, will you be able to put those feelings aside and be a proper husband to me?" He was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was very serious. "Rosalind, I need you to understand something. The feelings I have for you are not a passing infatuation. They are not based on some idealized memory of a 15-year-old girl. For 5 years I have had agents keeping me informed about your life. I know that you spent 2 years caring for your sick mother before she died. I know that you took over managing your father's estate when his gambling got out of control. I know that you sold your jewelry and your horses to try to pay his debts before you had to sell yourself." She stared at him in shock. She had no idea he knew about any of that. "I know," he continued, "that you are brave and selfless and stronger than anyone should have to be. I know that you have grown into a woman of extraordinary character. So when I tell you that I love you, I am not talking about some childish romantic fantasy. I am talking about genuine admiration for who you have become." Tears were flowing again. No one had ever seen her so clearly. No one had ever understood what the last 5 years had cost her. "But what about children?" she asked. "Parliament expects you to produce an heir. And do you want children?" The question caught her off guard. In all of this, she hadn't even considered her own desires. Yes, I think I do. Then we will have children. If God wills it." His expression grew sad. "I cannot promise you that pregnancy will be safe. I have lost 2 wives and 3 children already, but I can promise you that if you take that risk, it will be because you choose to, not because I demand it of you." She could see the pain that those losses had caused him. Whatever else he was, Adrian was not a man who took women's lives lightly. "What about love?" she asked quietly. "What about it? You say you love me, but what if I cannot love you in return? What if I can only offer you respect and partnership?" He moved closer to her, his eyes never leaving her face. "Rosalind, you spent 2 years nursing your dying mother. You managed your father's estate and tried to save your family from ruin. You stood on an auction block with dignity intact because you were determined to protect whatever honor you had left. If that is not love in action, then I don't understand the word." "That's not the same thing," she protested. "Isn't it? Love is not just romantic feeling. It's choosing to put someone else's well-being before your own. It's staying faithful through hardship. It's seeing the best in someone even when they cannot see it in themselves." He reached out and gently touched her face. "You have been loving people your entire life, even when they didn't deserve it. The only question is whether you could ever love me." She looked into his eyes and saw something she had never expected to find there. Hope. This powerful man, this king who commanded armies and ruled nations, was hoping that a bankrupt nobleman's daughter might someday care for him. "I don't know," she said honestly. "I don't know if I can love you the way you love me." "That's all right," he said softly. "I have enough love for both of us until you decide." The simple generosity of that statement broke something open inside her chest. She had spent so many years being strong for everyone else. Her sick mother, her reckless father, the tenants who depended on their family's estate. She had forgotten what it felt like to have someone offer to be strong for her. "If I say yes," she said carefully, "what happens next?" "We get married. Quietly, without a lot of ceremony, then we try to build a life together. And if it doesn't work, if we make each other miserable, then we will have tried," he said simply. "But I don't think we will make each other miserable. I think we will make each other stronger." She studied his face, looking for any sign of deception or manipulation, but all she saw was sincerity. This man had spent 5 years thinking about her, longing for her, building his love for her on a foundation of genuine knowledge about who she was. It was not the fairy tale romance she had dreamed of as a girl, but it was something better. It was real. "All right," she said quietly. "All right, I will marry you, Adrian." The smile that spread across his face was like sunrise after a dark night. For a moment, he looked like the young prince she remembered from their dance, full of joy and hope. "Thank you," he said, and she could hear the genuine gratitude in his voice. "Don't thank me yet," she warned. "I am not an easy person to live with. I have opinions about everything. I will want to be involved in decisions about the kingdom. I will probably argue with your advisors." "Good," he said firmly. "I need someone who will challenge me. I need someone who will tell me the truth even when it's difficult to hear. And I will need time," she continued. "Time to learn to be your wife. Time to learn to be a queen. Time to learn to love you the way you deserve." "We have all the time in the world," he assured her. She looked around the magnificent library, at the thousands of books and the priceless artwork. In a few days, all of this would be hers. She would be Queen of England. The girl who had once been sold on an auction block would wear a crown. But more importantly, she would be married to a man who had chosen her not for political advantage, but because he genuinely valued who she was. It was not the love story she had imagined as a 15-year-old girl, but perhaps it was something better. Perhaps it was the love story she needed as a woman who had learned that real love was built on respect and commitment, and the willingness to stand together against whatever life might bring. "When?" she asked. "As soon as possible," he replied. "Unless you need time to prepare." "No," she said, surprising herself with her decisiveness. "I have been preparing for this moment for 5 years without knowing it." He moved closer to her, close enough that she could feel the warmth of his body. "May I kiss you?" The question was so formal, so respectful, that she almost laughed. "You bought me for £5,000, and you're asking permission to kiss me." "You are not my property, Rosalind," he said seriously. "You are my choice, and I want to be yours." She looked up at him, this man who had somehow managed to find her in her darkest hour and offer her not just rescue, but genuine love. She thought about the auction block, about the rough hands and calculating eyes of the men who had bid on her. She thought about how different her life might have been if someone else had bought her. Then she thought about the years ahead, the challenges they would face together, the country they would rule, the children they might have, the love they would build day by day, choice by choice. "Yes," she said softly, "you may kiss me." When his lips touched hers, it was nothing like the desperate passion she had read about in books. It was gentle and careful and full of promise. It was the kiss of a man who intended to spend the rest of his life earning the right to more such kisses. When they broke apart, she rested her forehead against his chest and felt his arms come around her. For the first time in years, she felt truly safe. "I have one condition," she said, her voice muffled against his shirt. "What?" "When we have children, you must promise me that you will never sell them to pay debts." She felt him laugh, a deep rumble in his chest. "I promise, though I should point out that kings generally don't accumulate the kind of debts that require selling their children." "You never know," she said. "I might be an expensive wife." "You already are," he pointed out. "You cost me £5,000. The best investment you've ever made?" "Without question." And as they stood there in the firelit library, holding each other while rain began to fall against the windows, Rosalind realized that sometimes the most unexpected love stories were the ones that mattered most. She had been sold like property to pay her father's debts, but she had been bought by a man who saw her as priceless. It was not the fairy tale she had dreamed of as a girl. It was better. It was real.